Hello, dear listener, and welcome to Sitcom Showdown, episode 106. My name's Jeffers, by the way. I'm one of your hosts. And here with me is my brother, Steve. Hello, Steve.
Hello, Jeff. Hello, listeners. Nice to be back with you.
It is, once again, my turn to select a show for the showdown and make many pages of notes. But in this case, I sort of took the suggestion of a listener, Nick Opolowski, who's chosen episode 1 of season 3 of Hangin with Mr. Cooper. That show, Steve, was broadcast... Well, let's start with the episode, and that was broadcast on Friday, 23rd of September 1994 to 19 million viewers. And I heard today that in the early 90s, there were 2/3 as many people in America as there are now. So 19 million back then would be far more respectable.
Yeah.
And that was on the ABC network, but not, of course, our humble and charming little Australian Broadcasting Corporation. We're talking the behemoth ABC network of the USA. So Hangin with Mr. Cooper overall, though, it ran from 1992 to 1997, and they got 5 seasons out of it. And the overall concept for the show, which I'm about to read, this was written by a user called KnightBK on IMDb. And the reason I'm using it is because they nailed it. And that is, Mark Cooper is a single high school teacher and basketball coach living in Oakland, California. Between coaching, teaching, dealing with neighborhood struggles, and living with 2 beautiful female roommates, Mr. Cooper keeps a humorous, positive outlook on life and provides advice and fun to the many people in his life.
Yeah, nailed it.
I think so. Because, he does do all those things. So, yes, Mark does teach. And in this season... he lives with his cousin, Geneva, and her young daughter, Nicole.
One of the beautiful women is his cousin.
Yeah, we'll see. This was written about season 1, so we'll get it. I'll explain, Steve.
It's fine, Jeff. We've already established on Sitcom Showdown that marrying your cousin is...
your first cousin is perfectly fine. Yes, so plus their mutual 20-something friend, the spoiled and gorgeous Vanessa. Now, when we go through the cast in a minute, I'll explain the tricky layout of the program and how it changed massively between season 1 and the subsequent seasons.
Yep.
So the concept of this episode, now this one's called Call Me Irresponsible. That's the title. Season 3, episode 1. Our listener, Nick, didn't say why he chose it, but the elevator pitch for this episode we're looking at is that our hero, Mark Cooper, he avoids the principal's phone calls during the holidays, and he learns all too late upon returning to school that the coaching job, which could have been his, has now gone to a candidate who actually picks up the phone.
Yes.
By crikey. Anyway, the subplot is, meanwhile, cousin Geneva plays a bit of a fashion trick on their materialistic roommate Vanessa to teach young Nicole a valuable lesson.
Right, Nicole's her daughter.
Yep.
Geneva's daughter.
Yep. Who, what would be around sort of 9-ish, you reckon? Something like that in this episode? Yeah,
I'm guessing so.
Has watching this show recently brought back any memories at all? Because I know you don't remember it, you claimed last time. So you didn't even accidentally bump into it in the 90s?
Nope.
Okie dokie.
Do you? Well, are you saying that you did?
I was living in a share house myself at that point with my friends, and so, we'd tune in to Hangin with Mr. Cooper if it was on. Not, it wasn't stay home TV. If you were out, you're out. But if you're home and it was on, you'd go, yeah, Coops.
Were you vibing with the basketball?
We totally
stuff?
were because, that was around the time
when the
Sam
Bulls
Cassell came into the league.
Oh, okay.
When the Houston Rockets, Mike had retired and the Rockets won those 2 championships. And I hopped on board the Sam Cassell train. It was fantastic. So it was right around that time. So you really called it there, dude, that we were enjoying the basketball aspect. We don't normally on this show, Steve, talk about the writers and the producers and the directors and that sort of stuff. We tend to go, here's the cast, here's the sitcoms they were in. But in this particular case, I want to.
Right.
Because the whole show was created by a dude named Jeff Franklin, and he created Full House in 1987.
Oh, okay.
5 years before he created Mr. Cooper. Way before that, though, he produced 24 episodes of Laverne and Shirley.
Which was that a Happy Days spin-off?
Yep, it totally was.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's your creator and showrunner, Mr. Franklin. This episode of Coops was written by Jeffrey Dutail, and that's what I was hoping you were going to say. Yeah, yes, you nailed it. Oh, Steve. Yeah, so he also wrote for The Steve Harvey Show and for Head of the Class and The Love Boat, but he only sort of did 1 or 2 episodes of each of those shows. He only wrote 2 episodes of Hangin' with Mr. Cooper, both of which I've watched, and they're very good. And this is because he's more of a producer. So as a producer, tons of sitcom credits. Now let's move on to the director. Now this is Mark Lynn Baker. Isn't a name I was familiar with, I should say. He's mainly an actor, and I'll tell you what he was in a moment. But he recently played She-Hulk's dad in 4 episodes of She-Hulk. He recently did 4 episodes of the much better show Succession, which apparently is a right cracker of a show.
Yeah, I heard that's popular.
But he was famously, Steve, Cousin Larry in Perfect Strangers. Did you ever watch Perfect Strangers?
No.
Okay. Oh, well, that's a bit of homework for you to do. No, I would have come across one. I'm aware of Perfect Strangers. I watched 1 or 2 episodes back in the day. Yeah. I'll leave you to look that up.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
bit of homework for me.
Yep. But yes, Mark Lynn Baker. So, like, he's instantly recognisable for this role he played in Perfect Strangers. He did 36 Hangin' with Mr. Coopers as a director, but not much else, which I find really interesting because it's odd that he'd do tons and tons of a certain sitcom and not get more.
Well, normally that's the end point of not the end point of a career in terms of you stop once you've.
No, you tend to transition to directing and not transition
that's like
back.
where you peak, isn't it, at director?
Yeah.
Yeah, your work might you might start as an actor.
Yeah, you don't see Ron Howard going back and acting, do you?
No.
There you go. He's a good
interesting career trajectory.
Yeah, well, quite. And so this episode of Hanging with Mr. Cooper was written by a producer and directed by an actor, which I find fascinating. Anyway, now that we're several minutes in, let's go on to the actual cast, Steve. I'm going to quickly go through 7 cast members here. I'll try not to take too long. It's just one of those shows that has a fair few people in it. Mark Cooper, played by comedian Mark Curry, makes life easy. Coops, he's this former Golden State Warriors basketball player, although I suspect he was only on a 10-day contract or something like that.
Okay.
You know. So Coops, he's now a teacher at Oakbridge High School. The show is about his adventures at work and home, and he's trying to get ahead and pay off the house and advance his career and stuff. But he's a tall, very cool, very charismatic, but can sometimes be self-centered sort of dude. He's begrudgingly nice, but he is fun to be around. That's my take on the whole thing.
Yep.
But Mark Curry himself, I consider him more of a comic rather than an actor. But he was like a young king of Oakland comedy for a while, and then he got this show for 106 episodes. It was really successful. Then he did 6 episodes of The Drew Carey Show, which we have to cover one day because that was a brilliant show. And then a decade or so later, he did 36 episodes of a sitcom called See Dad Run, which starred Scott Baio.
What year is that?
This is about a decade ago. 2013, 2012, 2011 sort of deal. Let's move on to the next person. Now, this is where we go down the rabbit hole, Steve, of what happened between season 1 of Hangin' with Mr. Cooper and the rest. So, in season 1, he is in this house with this lady named Robin. So Robin was a character who was Mark's best friend since childhood, and she comes up with this idea to have Mark move in with her because obviously they can't afford the house individually.
Yep.
So if her and her mate Vanessa and Mark all move in, then they get to live in this sweet house.
So this is a rental house, right?
Yeah, at the time. So sometime between then and season 2, Robin moves out, and Geneva, who's Mark's cousin, gets a job at the school and moves in and brings her daughter, Nicole. And then there's an arrangement where Coops is now buying the house. So it comes up for sale. They don't want to move. Hey, bro, I'll buy the house. And so he charges Vanessa rent money.
Yep. And
I'm unclear whether Geneva's going halvesies with him or whatever. But that's just the premise, because there's a lot of comedy mileage in this show about him just desperately trying to get the rent money out of Vanessa.
Yeah.
And all this sort of stuff.
I was wondering about the arrangement with Geneva because she's cooking dinner in this episode, and also she presses Vanessa's
jeans,
which we're going to talk about later.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, she's like the mum.
There's a whole thing I'm intrigued about there.
Yeah. He's probably more than happy to let her do all the stuff. So, let's move on to Cousin Geneva, who's played by Sandra Quarterman. Now, Mark's cousin, she comes from Georgia, and along with Nicole, she moves in with Mark and Vanessa in season 2, as I just mentioned. She's this sort of level-headed, I describe her as a well-put-together woman. She's got her act together, you know. She's a music teacher at the same high school, Oak Ridge High, with Mark. And her other work, you know, as Sandra the actor, she did 25 episodes as a doctor in a long-running soap, All My Children. And this is her trend, you see. She's in dramas all the time, so she's not a sitcom person. I think she's one of them proper actors, you know. Oh, yes. And they keep casting her as bloody military people or a judge or a doctor. So, yes, she was a doctor in All My Children. She did 13 episodes as a major in Strange World. But her career appears to have ended in 2006, so she must have pulled the plug because she was doing pretty good.
So she was a school teacher in this one.
Yep.
So positions
Against
of authority.
type. Yeah, positions of authority, yeah.
Would you say she's a peacemaker?
Yeah.
Geneva?
Oh, Steve. The Geneva Convention.
If you like.
Nice one. The name Jeffrey means peacemaker, you know, Steve.
Does it?
Yes, it does. So I'll be the one to throw around peacemaking gags around here. Thank you very much. Let's move on to Holly Robinson, who plays the role of Vanessa Russell. Holly Robinson, the actor, she's never been out of work, still does tons of guest spots, and she pretty much started off way back in the Howard the Duck movie, Steve, at age 22. Yeah.
Okay.
She was on an episode of Sesame Street when, you know, she was like 4 or something, but I'm not counting that one. Anyway, then she did 100 episodes of what I recognised her from, 21 Jump Street.
Huh. Was she a policeman in that?
Yep. And
Nice.
For people who aren't familiar with 21 Jump Street, it was, you know, Johnny Depp and Holly Robinson and blah, blah. But, like, they played high school kids, so they were undercover coppers in a high school, so they had to be youthful and hip, man. Yep. She was brilliant in that. So, these days she specialises in Christmas TV movies that she produces when she's not guesting on other shows. So her hobby is to crank out these very nice
Hallmark things or something.
Yeah, well, they're not Hallmark. No, I think they'd be a bit hipper and cooler than that, you know. There you go. Let's move on to PJ Moore, the character of PJ, who's the principal PJ. She's the smiling assassin, I call her.
Yeah.
Anyway, she's played by Nell Carter. And I think you'll be impressed when I tell you about Nell's pedigree, Steve, which you took the piddle out of me for saying that last time.
Could you make people sound like a dog?
Yeah. Now, the character of PJ, she's the principal, as I said before, but this is only during seasons 2 and 3. So goodness knows where she goes in seasons 4 and 5. Let's look past all of that, though, because the actress, oh man, what a resume. Nell Carter, dude, she was the star of a sitcom called Gimme a Break, and that ran from 81 to 87.
Wow.
And did 158 episodes, for which she won 2 Golden Globes and 2 Emmys.
Huh.
So amazing.
Very successful.
However, the downside is that she did pass on at only age 54 in 2003. So that's
right.
She had a massive
Quite
career.
a while ago.
Yeah.
20 years ago.
20 years, yeah. Holy moly. All right, let's move on to the kids, Steve-O. So, as impressive as Nell Carter's resume is, hold on to your hat, Steve, because I don't think we've talked about big-time sitcom legends, but I don't think we've come across anyone quite like
Surely this can't
Raven
be up to your
Symone. Well, I'll let you be the judge, dude. So, the character of Nicole Lee, so we know this is Cousin Geneva's kid, is played by Raven Symone, or Symone, I don't know how you pronounce it. Check it out, dude. So she had done 74 episodes of The Cosby Show by the time she was 8, right? And so that's a lot more than, so, you know, if you're a British sitcom person doing 6 episodes at a time.
Oh, yeah. That's a lifetime's work. It's there.
Yeah. Then she did 79 episodes of Hangin with Mr. Cooper by the time she was 13. In addition to a whole bunch of movies and everything. So, I don't know, it was stuff like Dr. Dolittle with Eddie Murphy and all this sort of gear. And then she also had a music career going on as well. She did 100 episodes of her own show, That's So Raven, which wrapped up in 2007, and she was 22.
How many episodes of that?
100. So she'd done 70-odd Cosbys, 70-odd Coopers, a music career, movies and 100 episodes of her own sitcom. So here's the numbers, dude. At 22 years old, she'd done well over 250 sitcom episodes in 3 big shows, been a chart topper, and had a dozen movies under her belt.
And then what about after that?
In 2011, she headlined another sitcom called State of Georgia. So that's another leading role. And for the last 7 years, she's racked up another 123 more episodes as the series lead in Raven's Home.
Okay.
So that's a sequel to That's So Raven, but her as an adult. And so on those numbers alone, you could argue that she's a Hall of Famer, basically, just on the sheer number of sitcom episodes she's done. And I've learnt all this in the last fortnight or so, and that's been tremendously interesting.
So she, in her mid-30s now or something?
Something like that, yeah. So she was born in 85, so she'd be 36, something like that.
Okay.
No, hang on, that can't be right. I don't know.
Getting on towards her late 30s.
What a career.
Impressive.
Yes. Now, less impressive, unfortunately, because he was very talented. Tyler Foster is the character, the kid next door, played by Marquise Wilson. Now, the character, we know he's the neighbour kid and he's a friend of young Nicole and a pain in Mark's backside. But Mark apparently does warm to him after a while. And I think, the kid, he's charismatic dude and he idolises Coops. But yeah, the actor Marquise Wilson, he's interesting because he did 92 episodes of Hangin' with Mr. Cooper. Not much else. Little guest spots here and there in some shows. And I don't understand it because I thought, and you may disagree, but I thought he was very good in this show. And he didn't go on to steady work. But in 2015, he did 5 episodes of a drama called Karma.
A drama called Karma?
Yeah. Yes, so Marquise Wilson, interesting dude. This episode also introduces a character called Coach Chet Corley that we're going to get onto. And the actor is Ron Canada. Now, Ron's still in very high demand. He's appeared in at least 5 series with guest spots in the last 2 years alone.
Far out.
He's been in regular work for 40 years, basically. But he is vital to the plot in this episode of Hangin' with Mr. Cooper.
Indeed.
And he does a good job. Anyway, I haven't included the high school kids here, Steve, but Omar Gooding and the crew were pretty good. So what we'll do now is we'll get on to the theme tune. And we're not going to use the theme tune from this season because there's a much cooler theme tune in Series 1.
Oh, I kind of like the jazzy.
Yeah. Oh, no, I like it. Yeah, no, I agree. It is good. But there's a better one from Season 1, and it was recorded by chart-topping ladies on Vogue.
Turn it out. Here we go.
Very nice.
Yes. Anyway.
Was this prime yuppie era? Mid-90s?
I wouldn't have thought so. I would have thought the yuppie phenomenon was an 80s
When were the yuppies?
thing.
Let's Google it.
Oh,
Can we do that?
sorry, can we get that on the record, Steve?
Yeah. What? I was wrong.
We're on Wikipedia.
You were right.
Oh, good. Coined in the early 1980s. Oh, we keep going off track, and we've got a synopsis to get through here, Steve.
It's a good thing we edit these.
Now, before we begin the synopsis, though, I want to just quickly include a super quick clip of a 1990s era telly promo for Coops from Australian TV.
Well, I think I see some cheese floating in here.
He's suave,
Don't you have any handkerchiefs?
No, she needs to match my socks.
and he'll charm the pants right off you. Hanging with Mr. Cooper, right after Home Improvement, Wednesday on Sunshine.
Well, that must have been regional
Yeah, I think it's Queensland. So I'm
from
told.
Sunshine Coast.
I honestly hadn't worked that out, but yeah, it makes total sense. Now, being the start of season 3, Steve, it does begin at the school year starting, right? Because Coops and cousin Geneva are both teachers. It's they've been on a break.
This is confusing to us Australians.
Yeah,
that they start in August or September or something
like that.
Yeah. And the holidays
massive.
Yeah, so we go school holidays a fortnight, but we're talking about months.
Now we get several breaks throughout the year for short duration, and they get one massive break. Yeah, we're going off track.
I think it's important context because
good.
For people that aren't in America, you won't realise that the holidays is an extensive amount of time.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought it was important.
Well, and
just cut it out, Jeff.
No. So many TV shows that came from America targeted at the kiddies when we were young would have been how your whole life transforms through summer break because you've got...
you go off to camp and everything.
Yeah, and do all the stuff and have adventures and... So, yes, they've just come back from school holidays. The episode opens with Geneva and her daughter Nicole in the kitchen, and they're discussing clothes shopping, to get ready for the new school year. But roommate Vanessa has been influencing young Nicole to only wear designer stuff, which obviously Geneva can't afford. And, you don't want Vanessa to be planting ideas in your kids' heads. Meanwhile, though, over in the living room, Coops and young Tyler walk in. They're back from the kids' basketball league, which is called the Peanut League.
Yep.
And Mark's been coaching Tyler's little league team, as I call it. Now, I'm going to say Coops and Mark interchangeably, by the way. So don't get confused, poor listener, at me changing all the time. Coops puts up with Tyler being annoying, but he does like him deep down. And to illustrate that, we'll have a clip to set the scene.
Excuse me, Tyler. Do you dribble in your own house?
Yeah.
Me too. Oh, stop me. Oh, you can't. Off me, boy. Nothing but pillow. Get off me.
Hey, Mark. Thanks for a great summer. It takes a special kind of guy to give his time just to coach peanut basketball.
Man, I was happy to do it. Besides, I got so many phone numbers. Oh, there were so many women jogging by, and they loved you guys. Look at those little boys play. They're so cute. You guys work better than puppies.
So, what are we going to do now, buddy?
Oh, I don't know, buddy. Well, whatever you do, you're going to do it at your own house, okay?
And what you can't hear, dear listener, is that Tyler's not taking the hint about going back to his own house, and he just follows Coops through to the kitchen. Right, so Tyler and Nicole go out to play, but not before Tyler notices the Bargain Ranch clothes catalogue. And Nicole goes, please, Tyler, don't tell the other kids that I have to shop at Bargain Ranch. So she's obviously seeing it as a source of shame. But the main plot is about to kick in here, though, because Geneva tells Mark that he missed a call from Principal PJ and hands him a piece of paper, and he just snatches the piece of paper out of her hand, screws it up and throws it away. And she says, listen, man, PJ's been calling all summer, and you really should call her back, because it's got to be important. And Coops replies with some classic fun-loving outlook on life. He's extolling the virtues of summer vacation, with the main virtue being that he doesn't have to deal with all the work bull crap. And he ain't calling her back. Yeah. So at this point, the front door goes, and this is Vanessa returning from a trip to France with a whole bunch of luggage, and all this luggage is being hauled in by this limo driver. And we get a nice recap of the sort of shallow person that Vanessa is, which again is best related by a clip.
Thank you, Scott. I love your limo. I added a little something extra for you.
Wow, you're a big tipper. Thank you, Mrs. Abramowitz.
Mrs. Abramowitz.
Well, hey, he had a sign and I didn't have any money for a taxi.
So, poor Mrs. Abramowitz is just wandering around the airport?
If she can afford a limo, she can afford a taxi.
Wait a minute. Hold this, please. I'm starting to get a bad feeling. No money for a cab. Let's see. Funky fingernails. I thought the family trip to Europe was supposed to get you back in the family money.
Well, it was, and it was going great. I promised Daddy that I would learn the value of $1, and he agreed to reinstate my allowance.
All right, so I give my rent money. Thank you.
Well, not exactly. See, on the plane home, Daddy found that I spent $600 on a pair of shoes.
Yeah, I think, when you see a perfect clip that illustrates who someone is, I think you've got to include it.
Yep.
When you're at risk of including too many clips. We get everything there. The trust fund girl steals a limo service, bad impulse control, Mark wanting his rent money. So we get all the good character development that's handy for new viewers who are getting on board at the start of the season. So great first episode of Series 3. But we do get a great gag here, Steve, I thought, when Geneva shouts, Vanessa, $600, that's $60 a toe.
Yep.
Is that on your great gags list of two jokes?
That didn't make it.
Right. I'll distract you, Steve, because you know what time it is. It's time for a game of What Is That Worth Now?
Oh, no.
$60 US, $60 a toe. 30 years ago in 1994, Steve, what do you reckon that's worth in current day Australian dollary-doos?
A couple of hundred?
Dude, you are bang on.
Oh, serious?
Yeah, totally. $60 US back then is just a shade, and I'm talking about 196. So a shade under $200 Australian today. And that's 125 US dollars today per toe. So for Vanessa's shoes, that's over £1,000 or 1,950 Aussie dollary-doos. That's an expensive pair of shoes.
Yeah, okay. I'm coming around to the mum and dad's side now.
Yeah.
Slap it down.
Yeah, that's right. You've been cut off. Anyhow, another funny bit where Vanessa talks about being downgraded to coach on her flight because she was going to fly home first class and Dad said, nah, man. And she goes, I was stuck between a woman who snores and a man cleaning out his ears with a spoon. So
yeah, and then she came out with some racist comment about it was like being in Calcutta or something.
Yeah, that's right. She certainly did, but I had the good taste to leave that one out.
Well, I'm not. I'm putting it back in.
Yeah, so I've
got thoughts about this character.
Oh, well, quite. We're supposed to have thoughts about this character. Do you want to, are they sharing now, or are you sharing in the summer?
I'll withhold them for now.
Okay, good. We cut ahead to young Nicole. She's going off to the first day back at school. And so we find out she's wearing the same outfit she started last school year with. And this is to illustrate how, mums are tightwad when it comes to buying new clothes. But I don't buy this, Steve. Because when you've got a child of that age, there's no way on earth she's fitting into the outfit she had a year ago, surely. Is that realistic?
Would be very unlikely.
Oh, good.
I would say.
Geneva promises to take her to Bargain Ranch after school. And, she says, don't worry, they might not look good in the catalogue, but they'll look better on the rack. But Nicole, she knows the score. And she goes, no, Mum, they won't come off the rack. They'll come out of the discount bins. And there's a lot of talk in this show about the bins. To put the boot into Geneva. Anyway, Vanessa, who has been sitting in the kitchen with Geneva and Nicole, she says it's cruel to send a girl to school in the same clothes as last year. But what I like is the super practical Geneva. She's onto this, and she goes, no, because she can turn any negative into a positive. She's saying, no, it's really good because all her friends will recognise her.
I didn't, yeah. It's not on my list of two things, but it wasn't too bad.
She packs Nicole off to school, and with her gone, Vanessa says designer clothes are essential. And she got this wonderful pair of $150 jeans in France that she'll be wearing on a date on Saturday night, while Geneva's going to be at home on the couch in a bathrobe she got at Bargain Ranch out of the bins. So she's really putting the boot into Geneva here. You're shaking your head, Steve. Are you passing judgment on Vanessa's?
I'll come back to that.
Because I'm a frugal person, you see, so I'm sort of like, bargain bins? All right. Oh, well, there we go.
Well, our kids have been wearing hand-me-downs from their older brother and sisters, so...
Well, quite.
They'd be loving getting something from the bargain bin.
Yeah.
Rather than something from...
That's right. I used to have to wear some of your hand-me-downs. Cool. Well, we go across to school at this point in time. Coops has arrived, and straight away, Principal PJ's, she's getting stuck into him about not returning her calls all summer. And Mark sort of says, look, PJ... I know how you feel. I'm not going to lie to you. I was in a coma. And we get one of these big, all the smooth stuff from Coops with a hint of the Eddie Murphy trying to talk his way out of stuff sort of thing.
Yep.
But it's hand me down, Eddie. Right. Anyhow, PJ, she lays out the situation for Mark, which leads to my favourite bit of the episode, which again is very well illustrated with a clip.
In June, I called to tell you that Coach Hoover was retiring. Bad, hard doctor's orders.
Yes! I mean, yes! Why does it always happen to the good people? Maybe I could send him a card or a letter or something.
Are you through? Good. In July, I called to ask if you might be interested in taking his place.
Ah, yes! You mean I'm the head coach? Thank you, PJ. You'll never regret this. I'm gonna take the team all the way to the state. Hey, all the way to the state. Everybody go, all the way to the state. All the men say, all the way to the state. All the ladies say, all the way to the state. Everybody, all the way to the state.
Hey, all the way to the state. Hey, all the way to the state. I'm not finished. In August, I called to tell you that since you hadn't returned my phone calls in 2 months, I was offering the job to Chet Corley.
Chet Corley. PJ, you cannot fire me. You just hired me.
Hey, you lost the job in August when you didn't return my phone call.
So Coops, as you heard, he got so excited at the thought of moving up to head coach, and he hyped up the whole office, got them all singing along, and then PJ just cuts him down. It gets worse, though, when she says that the new head coaches hire their own assistants, so he hasn't even got his old job of assistant coach.
Yep.
And she advises him to start sucking up to the new Coach Corley. And it's this point, because this is on a commercial channel, that they go to the ad break. So the next scene is Mark being in a classroom, and it's a history class, so he's not coaching, obviously. He's clearly spent the whole lesson being really bitter and rambling on about his problems and getting sidetracked. So the bell rings and the kids are going to head off, and he goes, okay, everybody, tonight's homework is, and he just grabs a textbook off the desk and says, read the whole book, everybody. And I think he ended the lesson by saying, and that just proves that life isn't fair and it's completely...
Yep.
Yeah, so he's been whinging and moaning.
He's a bit grumpy.
So the kids are filing out, right? And one of the kids, Irvin, so he's one of the regular high school kids, he says, oh, look, I'm sorry you're not going to be coaching this year, Coop, and that's really bad, but can you put a good word in for me with the new coach? And then Coops goes, new coach, and he starts slagging off the new coach. But he hasn't seen that Coach Corley's kind of walked into the classroom and is standing behind him. And when it's revealed that he is standing behind him, Mark lamely tries to explain a misunderstanding, and he was talking about someone else.
Oh, it was another coach I was talking about.
Oh, yeah. A crazy one who threw chairs around. Anyway, so Coach Corley, he's about 20 years older than Mark, I'd say. And he's obviously just come in to introduce himself properly and be professional about everything. So Coach Corley says, look, I've seen you do your thing before, Mark, and I thought you were really good. And Mark goes, did you see me with the Warriors? So he's pulling that card. And Coach goes, no, I saw you coaching at the Peanut League.
Yeah, he thinks he's going to impress the coach. And then it gets flipped on him.
Oh, that's right.
And we're about to find out.
Yeah. So Coops tries to redirect by asking what Coach Corley's done. And Corley goes, I was an assistant coach. And Coops is sniggering away, going, this guy's hopeless. He's only assistant coach. And Corley goes, I was assistant coach with the Lakers. I was assistant coach with the Bulls, assistant coach with the Knicks, assistant coach at Barcelona with the Dream Team. And Coops' face is just...
Yeah.
But again, he can't admit all that. So he's eaten his humble pie, but he's trying to stay puffed up. But anyway, what Coach Corley infuriatingly says, what's really important is the kids. And he's aware that Coops is really good with the kids and getting through to them. And would he like to be assistant coach? And Coops is...
Nice, decent of him to make the offer.
I thought so. But Mark says, listen, I appreciate the offer, but I'm keeping my options open for all the big time stuff. But yeah, it is mind-boggling that he's being stupidly prideful. I mean, what an idiot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and also, if he was smart, he could be getting some excellent quality mentoring off this dude who's been with the Dream Team and the Knicks and the Bulls. But no. Anyhow, we cut ahead to Mark getting home where it's Geneva's turn to make dinner. So anyway, Steve, while I'm shaking my head in disbelief, let's have another quick clip and we'll come back and talk about a brilliant line.
Oh, Mark, do you...
Look, don't even start with me, because I know what you're going to say. Mark, this whole coaching thing is your fault. If you would just called PJ back, you would have the coaching job by now. All right? So I don't want to hear it.
All I was going to ask is if you wanted your potatoes mashed or fried.
Oh, mashed, no butter, a little bit of pepper, all right?
Geneva, did you shrink these for me?
Yes, I did. And trust me, people will be able to read the date on your change.
Perfect. Geneva, I'm going out with this terrific guy I met at the gym. He's an investment banker. He went to Harvard. He has a house in San Francisco and a condo in Carmel. He carries a phone in his fanny pack, and he has 2 Ferraris, one for each home.
Really? What's his name?
Tim, I don't remember. Anyway, this guy's a class act, so I've got to look good. Tonight's the night that these jeans will pay for themselves.
Wait a minute, Vanessa. Do you honestly think a pair of pants will make this guy like you?
Listen, honey, when he sees me in these, he's gonna forget his name. I know I did.
Yeah, so you were saying while we were listening to the clip that that's what got you in the yuppie zone.
Well, as soon as they mentioned fanny packs and Ferraris and all this sort of stuff, I thought,
totally.
We're in yuppie territory.
I reckon that's very much her scene. Yeah. So that clip saved me a lot of note writing because it's pretty dense with stuff. But what I want to do before we move on, Steve, is that great line, people will be able to read the date on your change. I've set you a challenge of explaining this one for the youngsters who don't carry change. What does she mean?
Well, it's going to be so excruciatingly tight that you'll be able to see every detail.
Yeah. It's
what's
a
inside.
coin in her back pocket.
Yep.
Made in 1975, and you'll be able to see the outline of the platypus on the other side of the coin.
Yep.
Brilliant. I just thought, if we did have a younger listener, that might have just gone straight over the top of their head.
Yep.
Both plots are moving along very nicely here. And character-wise, we can see Geneva, she's kind of a moral centre of sorts. Just as busy as Mark with teaching, but she also has to parent. She can sort out Vanessa's genes with all her practical Atlanta homemaker skills. She has to cook dinner. And like I said in the character introduction, she's professional and stylish. She knows how to make a low-cost wardrobe look really good. She does more with less, dude. And we all, well, I don't know, you and I appreciate that sort of thing. Is that right, or have I overstepped the mark?
No, I think you're on the right track.
Very good. I think the only thing is that maybe she could do with understanding that a young daughter, not everything can be about making the most practical decisions all the time. And sometimes it'd be nice to cut Nicole a break. But this, spoilers, it doesn't actually go anywhere with that. But I think it does during the season. It'll play out.
Well, yeah, okay. So let's come back to that
later on. All right, good. And my last little comment, as we've dived into the character of Geneva here, is that teenage me would have totally liked Vanessa, but middle-aged me is digging Geneva. So there you go. Setting all that aside, we're going to skip ahead in the action to Saturday night, and Geneva's chilling on the couch, as Vanessa predicted, but not in her bathrobe. She's actually wearing proper clothes. Anyway, so Vanessa comes down the stairs, and we get an acting masterclass here from Holly Robinson, and she totally nails this extremely self-satisfied Vanessa, who's massively overconfident, I'd say borderline arrogant, really, dressed in the world's tightest French designer jeans, and she trots downstairs looking really pleased with herself, and she's showing off to Geneva. And I'm doing movements here that the listener can't see.
Well, I think she's still trying to pour herself into the jeans, isn't she? It's a bit of a struggle.
She has to suck her non-existent stomach in to do the last button up. And
you know what this reminded me of? Tim trying to fit into his Saturday night fever.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. He does, with the zip and the...
He talks like this when the zip's right down the bottom, and then he talks like this when he gets it at the top.
I'd like to think so. She says these jeans should be illegal, and she does that thing, where people, they lick their finger and press it to their backside and go tss to indicate how sizzling hot they are. Brilliant. Anyway, she goes on her date, and she leaves Geneva eating popcorn, which I thought was a bit of foreshadowing in that, I'm going to grab my popcorn and sit back to watch the show kind of way. Yeah. So at this point, Steve, we're nearly 15 minutes into a 22-minute show, which isn't very long, and a minute of that is taken up by the fabulous theme tune. So we get a nice scene, and it's the climactic scene coming up here where the A-plot gets resolved. We have cut from Geneva and Vanessa, which I just mentioned, out to the backyard, where there's a little basketball court that Coops has got, and he's perched on his outdoor lounger, typing away, hunched over a laptop. And young Tyler's shooting some hoops and stuff, and Tyler's just saying, it's terrible that PJ didn't give you the head coaching job. And Coops says, well, I don't care, man, because I'm hanging up my whistle and I'm through with coaching. And then he immediately tells Tyler, listen, buddy, you got to get more jump height when you release the ball in your shot there.
You can't help himself.
You can't help it. No, you're quite right. And it's a classic bicycle gag, which I'm sure everyone knows a bicycle gag, which is you'll never catch me riding that bicycle, and cut to whoever it is riding the bike. So what we get from this, though, is that Tyler's only been fed half the story by Coops. It seems pretty obvious, because we know full well that he was bloody well offered the job, and he didn't pick up the phone And so we get the idea that Mark's using the laptop to look for new jobs. And then Coach Corley sort of comes into the backyard through the back door. And Mark's pretty surprised. He goes, Coach Corley, what are you doing at my house? In a sort of nice way. But anyway, Coach looks all sorry and he says, look, hey, I was going to call you, but they told me that you don't return phone calls. And I think that was a great zinger on Mark.
Can I also say how anxious I was that Coops is on his laptop on a chair, which is literally a metre or two away from the underneath of the basketball hoop. And I was just waiting for a shot to bounce off the ring and smash his laptop into pieces.
If I'm being perfectly honest, because my memories are hazy, if someone had said, yeah, a laptop in the early to mid-90s, I would have thought, laptop?
It's probably worth more than a pair of French jeans.
And a $600 pair of shoes. I think a teacher would never have a laptop in the 90s. No way. They would have cost a fortune. But there it was, and so I was dead wrong. But yeah, you wouldn't want it to get smashed by a basketball, would you?
No. Carry on, dude.
Anyway, Steve, this is where we encounter a bit of a time problem because Coach has got his shirt and tie on, right? It looks like he's just come from school.
Yep.
Straight from work. He's a really professional dude. But I got a bit confused because Vanessa's date is supposed to be on a Saturday night. And so school teachers don't work Saturdays. And so, and they've crammed a lot into what seems like a 2-day period.
Right.
And I think they forgot where they were at in the script or something. Ultimately, it's not important, but still a bit confusing when you sit back.
So it was a Saturday night.
Well, she goes, I'm going out on a date on Saturday night and blah, blah, blah. And she's off on her date.
You caught him out.
Weird, man.
Unless the coach just dresses.
Like that all the time.
Yeah.
On a Saturday night, Coach has got bugger all better else to do than to put on his shirt and tie.
And go visit.
Go and visit Coach. Anyway, young Tyler exits and he leaves them to it. So Coach Corley, he picks up the ball and he lines up a shot and he starts telling Mark that after they'd been chatting earlier, it reminded Coach of when he was younger and he missed out on a head coaching job that he'd applied for, which really hurt his pride. And Coops tries to cut to the end, and he kind of says to Coach, yeah, I know you're going to say that you turned down the assistant job and now you regret it. But Coach Corley says, no, I didn't even get offered the assistant job. I was offered assistant to the assistant. And he turned that down, and Coach Corley did regret it because he realised that as he got a bit more mature, that if you love coaching, you should coach. And the chat continues and gets to the point. And let's have a clip.
I'm not saying you're bitter about not being the head coach. I mean, I would be, but that's just the sort of petty, immature kind of guy I can be sometimes. I'm not going to stand here and tell you what a great assistant coach you would be, or how terrific the kids think you are. And the last thing I'd do is tell you how much I could use your help. So if that's what you're waiting to hear, you can forget it.
So, are you asking me to be your assistant coach?
No, I'm too stubborn for that.
Yeah, and I'm too stubborn to accept.
Well, since I'm too stubborn to ask and you're too stubborn to accept, maybe you should just show up on Monday.
Maybe I will.
Good. That way we can both get what we want without being adult about it.
I like that.
I like how Coach Corley, he's sensitive enough to figure out that Mark got his pride hurt, and he's a good enough people person to realise the correct approach to take to get him on board, and maybe as well impart a little lesson, which is coaching in itself, really, when you think about it. And I reckon because he's been an assistant coach with so many teams, really good teams, he's probably dealt with a lot of egotistical basketball players in his time. I just think it's a great scene, and it shows that the main character is a flawed dude, but still likable. And even though he could learn a lesson or two, even though he's a teacher. So as the BK Knight said in his summary at the beginning of the podcast, that he hands out these nuggets of wisdom to the people around him, but he's totally getting schooled this time around. And the irony of the teacher being taught, and it's just very nice. Anyway, they end on a joke when Corley asks Coops if he really did play horse with Pat Riley. And Coops says, yeah, I beat him with a shot off the head. Let me demonstrate it to you. Which I thought was a brilliant joke. And it implies that even though Mark's been humbled here, he still wants to get some physical revenge on Coach Corley. And I feel like, and I shouldn't have to because it's a bit patronising, but I feel like I have to explain this, so apologies in advance for taking the humour out of it.
Can I guess that Pat Riley was he the Knicks coach?
Yeah.
Oh!
Yeah, and Miami Heat, and, oh man, you nailed it. Pat Riley, he was a Hall of Fame coach and a great player and all this sort of stuff. So for anyone that doesn't know the game of horse, it could be called, I don't know, any 5-letter word, because, you hit a shot and then the person you're against, because it's a 2-player game, has to hit the same shot. So if you've got one really good trick shot, there's a famous commercial with Larry Bird for, it must have been for McDonald's or something, and he'd say, all right, I'm going to bounce it off the 3-point line and it's going to hit the backboard and then go in the hoop. And he'd do it, and then, Michael Jordan would have to match the shot.
Yep.
And if they don't, then the person that made the shot gets their H and the other person misses out. And then they'll get the ball and they'll say, all right, I'm going to go behind my back and through my legs and headbutt it into the... You know what I mean? And they just do that until the first person reaches 5 letters, which is horse. Oh, I'm glad I took the time to explain all that.
Hangman with the basketball.
Exactly, it's Hangman with a basketball. And of course, Coops has set this up by saying you hit a shot by bouncing it off Pat Riley's head. And let me demonstrate it to you, Coach Corley. So he wants to whack him in the head with a basketball, which I thought was... I played that scenario out in my head and I thought that was really good. And meanwhile, back in the lounge room, Geneva is just chilling and Vanessa comes in the door from her date. So Vanessa's bragging about the date and she's saying, oh, it's the most romantic night of my life. And Geneva reveals at this point, because, Vanessa's clearly had a fantastic date. And Geneva has played a little trick on her. She's done a sneaky switcheroo of having taken the label off the $150 French jeans and she's sewn it onto a near identical $20 pair from Bargain Ranch. And she goes, ha! I told you that you don't need these expensive jeans, and that totally proves her point about designer stuff being a waste of money. So Geneva triumphantly holds up the actual pair of French jeans with no label on the back, just to prove to Vanessa the point. Vanessa loses at this stage, and she goes, yo! And then she starts shouting that basically she in fact had a terrible, humiliating date and the dude went off with someone else. And now she knows it wasn't because of her, it was because of the cheap jeans that she didn't know she was wearing.
She says that the guy she was going on the date with took the waitress home and put Vanessa in the back seat as he's driving the waitress home.
Who would put up with that? But maybe she couldn't resist being in one of his 2 Ferraris.
I know.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
Would she put up with this?
To ride in a Ferrari, she probably would. And also, she's got no money, dude, so she couldn't afford a taxi home from the airport. How the bloody hell is she going to get home from this restaurant? Do you know what I mean?
Well,
so she hasn't got money for a taxi.
This character really annoys me.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't have the money for a taxi to get home, don't scam someone else's ride home. Catch a bus, like normal people.
Yeah, but she doesn't catch the bus with poor people, Steve, because she's a trust fund kitty and she,
she's a scumbag. And I shall add further points to my thesis later.
Oh, good. Okay. This is going to go in a really positive direction. Okay. Yeah. So Geneva's a bit shocked, though, right? Because she thought she'd done so well in teaching Vanessa a lesson here. But anyway, she says the jeans are irrelevant. It's way more likely the guy just didn't click with you because of your personality. It's not going to be about something as trivial as jeans. And Vanessa, of course, she goes, I've got a great personality. And the only explanation for the guy not liking her must be those horrible Bargain Ranch monstrosities. So, even though she was wearing these things and bragging about them on the way out and did the sizzling stuff, and she would have gone into that date completely high on her French jeans and feeling ultra confident and being her top self. Anyway, what's good here is that neither of them really get to make the point they wanted to make. And although the lesson is learned by the audience, Vanessa and Geneva haven't really learned a thing.
What do you mean Geneva hasn't learned a thing? What lesson did she have to learn out of all this?
Oh, that she doesn't have to stick her nose into other people's stuff and mess with their expensive jeans, and she can just live and let live.
She should have just let it, let it ride.
Yeah, that's right. And then she would have really won.
If she hadn't spent $20 buying the fake pair of jeans from
Bargain Ranch,
she could have given Nicole a proper set of clothes.
Good call, Steve. We're nearly at the end of the episode here, listener. I swear.
I'll let you go.
No. It's cool. You're making good points. So what's happening is that a fight ensues, right? Because Vanessa says, "Give me them jeans," and she grabs her proper designer jeans. She kind of goes to snatch them off Geneva, and of course Geneva won't give them up, and a tug of war ensues. And meanwhile at this point, Coops is finished with Coach in the backyard, and they've said their goodbyes, and he's come in, and all he wants to do is watch some telly. And he parks himself on the couch, and he's got an apple, and he's like trying to, because the ladies are in front of him fighting over this pair of jeans, and he's craning his neck in all these directions to see and trying to work the remote. And they're tugging on these jeans, and of course the predictable thing happens, and they get ripped right in half.
Alas, the poor stonewashed jeans.
Then she goes, "Right, I'm getting revenge on you," and she goes off upstairs to rip up something of Geneva's, and Geneva goes chasing her up the stairs, and that just leaves poor old Mark.
Her beloved
there.
dressing gown.
Yeah, her beloved dressing gown that she gave birth in.
I don't know how you give birth in a dressing gown.
I don't know either.
And if you did, it would be a bit messy, but
yeah,
you probably wouldn't want to.
It'd be good for mopping stuff up afterwards, though. A terry toweling bathrobe.
That's painting quite the picture there, Jeff.
It is. So, Mark is sitting on the couch having witnessed all this madness, and he goes, back in the day, it used to be a fantasy of mine to have two women running around the house, but...
Ding, ding, you've hit one of the short list of my favourite gags.
Pretty much the last gag of the episode.
Yeah. Is he saying that he's fantasizing about his cousin?
No, he's just saying that, this isn't how he envisioned two women running around his house might have panned out, and it hasn't panned out the way he wanted it to be.
Right.
And hence why he says it still is, because obviously that fantasy hasn't been achieved yet, because all he's got is two crazy women ripping up jeans and running around the house. What I do like about having him come in and sit on the couch, right? And it's a small point, but it's more embarrassing for them if a third party is witnessing it, because it gives you that perspective. And also that he's completely ignoring it, and he just wants to watch TV. So that kind of suggests that this sort of thing happens all the time. Anyway, there is a last closing classroom scene where it turns out that one kid, Derek, actually did do the crazy homework, stayed up all night and read the entire book overnight. It's all a callback to something earlier that's completely inconsequential, and that brings us to the end of the synopsis for Hangin' with Mr. Cooper, this particular episode.
Well done.
I haven't got an awful lot to say, so I'm going to hand over to you.
Well, to start with, I was reflecting on the two plot lines, and I thought, this is like Pride and Prejudice. We've been watching a lot of Pride and Prejudice at home. It's dealing with Mark's pride and Vanessa's prejudice.
Nice.
I really liked the A plot. I was really high on that, about the coaching. The fact that Mark is, like you said, a flawed character who needs to be taught a lesson in responsibility and humility. And that scene where Mark and Coach Coralie having their chat around the basketball court it's really well done, and the way that the coach kind of manoeuvres Mark and brings him around. Yeah, I thought that was superb.
I totally agree.
Yep. But the B plot, this was...
Is this because you find Vanessa so unlikable?
Well, if this whole thing was put together to have Geneva play the trick on Vanessa of switching the gene labels and that sort of stuff, there's kind of some promise in that, but the whole thing's just so horrible.
Yeah.
You've got Vanessa looking down on Geneva for buying these Bargain Ranch, cheap clothes.
And influencing her daughter. Yeah, affordable
clothes. And she's teaching her daughter, Nicole, terrible ideas.
Yeah.
Contradictory to what her mum...
Yeah, people will only like you if you wear...
The values her mum's trying to...
Yeah, exactly.
instill in her. I mean, her mum's just trying to do the best she can with what she's got. And
darn right.
And then there's this line, which you mentioned already, so I don't... Where Vanessa goes, "Well, I'll be wearing these fancy pants on Saturday night out of my date, da-da-da-da-da," and you'll be sitting at home with your...
hideous bathrobe.
With your sad bathrobe.
On a Saturday
How do you like
night.
those apples? And you can hear the audience just go, "I can't believe she just said that. That was just horrible." Now, the only way this
There's
is...
no way around it.
There's no way this is acceptable to me. Unless she gets payback,
some comeuppance
of some extreme kind that's on a similar level.
Well, I know you're about to say something, but she did get horribly humiliated on that date.
No, but that doesn't pay back that doesn't
No, it doesn't
There was
come
no
with
apology
Yeah.
made to her friend who she spoke so horribly to.
That's true.
Mark's sitting there through a couple of these scenes, and he doesn't say, whoa, hold on, this is outrageous behaviour.
Yeah.
Pull your head in.
Well, I think
he doesn't intervene at all.
This is the look on the face of someone who has attempted such things many, many times before.
He's tried before.
And he's...
In fact, he's almost as bad as Vanessa, because there was this Christmas party. We haven't told the listeners about this. PJ, the headmistress, organised this Christmas party for the staff at school, which is a really nice thing to do. And she had it catered by the lady who runs the school canteen. And Mark just puts her down horribly for this, as if he's some kind of food snob.
I don't know, Mark. Remember last December? You didn't call her, and we didn't go to her Christmas party.
Oh, yeah. Wouldn't want to miss that. Catered by the cafeteria lady.
Anyway, the whole thing was a bit detestable to me. And you'd said that Geneva did the whole switcheroo with the labels to teach Nicole a lesson, but none of that, right. That never eventuated. No, exactly. And in fact, the whole thing just kind of petered out. So
It did, because what the outcome you'd want, isn't it, is that this is what happened to Vanessa, who thought that people only like you in designer jeans, but she went on a date in these $20 Bargain Ranch ones, and it was the best date she ever had. And she looked just as good, and this guy liked her just as much. So that's a great lesson for Nicole. Didn't come up. Nicole wasn't in the room. Yes, that learning moment, didn't eventuate.
And it could have been that the guy, somehow we found out that the guy thought she was a horrible personality.
Yeah.
She could have told him the story about how she just got back from France and then had to swindle a ride home, and
she wouldn't have told him the truth like that, because it's established that she lies. She lied about the date and all this sort of stuff. So
I can see the glimpses of what they were going for, but the whole thing was just a bit of a train wreck.
And that's not even to do with the timing issues that we identified.
No, we haven't got on to the timing issues. I'd just noted that it seemed a bit strange that the principal, PJ, would call the day before school
to inform him of
to
something
Mark
that he didn't...
About something, yeah. Why wouldn't she just do that on the following day when she sees him at school?
Yeah.
And it's really just there to establish the plot point that she had rung several times throughout the summer.
Yeah.
And he hadn't returned her call.
And they just thought they wanted to hammer at home that little bit extra by actually having a call that he'd missed.
Yeah. So I can kind of see why they did it, but yep.
There could be something we're missing here, dude.
I thought the performances were all really good. And the only one I'm not raving about is Raven, because I thought her timing was a little bit off.
Ah, really?
In a couple of scenes. Everyone else was really good.
Right.
Then the jokes. Did we mention how Mark's implying that he did the coaching of the Peanut League because he was getting all these phone numbers from ladies as they were walking past? And I thought that was kind of a laugh. And then another really good one was, we've learnt about the $150 jeans and the $600 shoes. And Geneva says, well, that was $750 and you're still topless. That was really good.
Yeah.
There's a scene where Mark's in a really bad mood and he gives all the students the homework of reading the entire history book overnight before they come back to class. So we kind of go from him giving the class this instruction about the homework on their way out the door, and then we immediately pivot to him telling his student about how horrible this coach is going to be. It was like, ironically, he's being
worse
than the coach that he's spinning this story about. That was pretty funny. I thought
it's not his finest moment, Mark.
No, but he does put it right.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, so that was good to see. Mark got the consequences really heavily, and that was great in this episode.
He did, and yet he still ended up being assistant coach, which is good, because he was assistant coach before he went on summer break, and now he still is. So at least he didn't get busted down.
Yeah, but there was a consequence to him not answering the phone calls, because he could have been the head coach.
Darn right. Yeah, I think he'll learn that lesson.
Yep. And while I'm on the subject of basketball coaches in high school, we should mention We Are Men, which we covered a few episodes ago.
This is probably one of our worst performing episodes ever. So, dear listener, if you haven't listened to our coverage of We Are Men,
downloads.
Which would be the only podcast ever to cover that show, since it only aired for 2 episodes, it's actually really good. So,
Anyway, Yes, so in that episode, the main character tells his friends about this magic dream he's always had of being a basketball coach and how life and his fiancée have prevented it and everything like that. And then later in the episode, he becomes the high school basketball coach and he's whinging them about it.
Yeah, and then he
Just drove me
takes the
mad.
job back with the fiancé's dad again and quits being a basketball coach.
That hasn't prejudiced me against high school
Coops?
basketball coaches, no. So.
Oh, good.
But I just can't get that out of my mind. That was ridiculous.
Like yourself, my admiration for the cast is there, and that's just basically the rest of my notes. So I see, and this is unfair to Mark Curry, but I see him as being a bit in the Will Smith mould.
Mm-hmm.
But I find him more relatable than Will Smith. So he's this smooth, charismatic, funny dude. So that's good.
He brings a lot of energy to it.
He totally does. And they just handed this young dude a primetime sitcom spot. It was amazing. I reckon, and you wouldn't have seen enough of them, but I reckon as far as child actors go, they're both really good. And I know I had complimentary things to say in the previous episode about Benji playing the kid in Alf, but there's a massive gulf in polished professionalism between him, who probably had no experience as an actor, and these kids here who are absolute pros. So I thought that was cool. Nell is great. I just thought the whole cast are really, really good. But yes, having watched 5 episodes, I really like them. I think the show's aged well in a lot of respects, which is good. And again, we're in the 3rd season here, and 2 nice, simple plots that sort of gently put their point across and give us some decent humour. So I liked this recommendation. So thank you, Nick. And I know we've put the boot in on a couple of scores, but I've massively enjoyed watching Hangin' with Mr. Cooper again. I thought it was good.
If I pushed you to put a number out of 10, where would you land on this one?
For this one, out of the 5 I watched, yeah, I'd give it a very solid 7.
Yep.
The 2 episodes that Jeffrey Dutel wrote are better than the other ones.
Right.
I don't know why, because as we said before, he's more of a producer than a writer. But
there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. It's always good to get a listener suggestion.
Yeah. All right, and that's it from us. We'll catch you next time.
Yep. See you next month. Bye.
Join us next time on Sitcom Showdown when we'll be putting another 5-star episode under the microscope. And in the meantime, you can contact us with feedback on Facebook, Twitter @Sitcom Showdown, or by email sitcomshowdown@gmail.com.